all of a sudden it was here. Let's put it up, see what it looks like. Oh, I was a little bit excited. And I think I can do that. Goes really well with the kitchen. That's nice. Did you know that the internet lies to you all the time? Good morning, guys. Welcome to Vlogmas day 8. We have been waking up to the exact same gray, boring skies for about a week now, I feel like. Usually somewhere in the week there is some kind of pretty sunrise where I can send my drone out and get some beautiful shots, but this week, nothing. It's all the same. It's all gray. But at least now I've got a fancy lens where I can actually film in this lack of light. So that is very exciting. I didn't really have a plan for today at all. So I wasn't actually quite sure what we were gonna do in this vlog today. But then my mail arrived, or actually a package that I had ordered, which wasn't expected to arrive until like 2 or 3 days from now. But all of a sudden it was here. So I guess we're gonna do that because I ordered a lampshade for above the table and 2 lamps for above the kitchen island. So let me get them. I will show you what they look like. They came in 2 gigantic boxes. I wonder if this was really the most efficient way of packaging them, but we'll see when I open them up. Let's start with the smaller one, which I'm expecting is the lampshade for above the table. Yeah, this is what I mean. It's a gigantic box, and this is inside. So I ordered 1 separate lampshade and then 2 lights including the lampshade, but now I've got these 2 in the package with the 1 lampshade. So I am wondering if these belong to the other box, in which case I would be very, very sad because this is horrible quality. If this belongs to the lights that will go above the island, I will return them. Very plasticky. You know, I don't think it's gonna hang straight. Let's start with this. Look at that. But it's broken. I mean, I guess I could fix it, but it's a little disappointing. Look, I'm thinking this is supposed to be attached to each other, right? Let's put it up, see what it looks like. They had this in several colorways. There was a black and white one, I think, and something, I think it was a dark red or something, or brownish. But I wanted to add a little bit more color into this corner because it's all kind of the same. It's all brownish. The tapestry, now that it's turned around, adds a little bit of color, but other than that, there's not really that much. So I thought this would look nice. It's a little sad because I really like this one. I think I got that actually during Vlogmas last year, didn't I? When I made this entire dining room set thing. Oh, come on, even this is bent. Is this even gonna fit? Oh, it doesn't fit. Oh man. I don't think I can fix that unless it's hanging onto the light bulb. We can at least test it out then. Okay, so first of all, it doesn't fit. The space that is in the lampshade thingy is bigger than my lamp thingy, you know? So right now the lampshade is leaning on the light bulb itself, which obviously is not the way you're supposed to do it. This is wider than the one that is up there right now. It's significantly smaller. So I could fix that by replacing the entire light fixture and having one that is wide enough, but I don't really want that because it's brass colored and it's pretty and it has a little switch that I don't use, but I like the look of. So I was a little bit excited I do like the style of the lampshade. So having it being a little bit old-fashioned with the hanging thingies, and let's look at the other ones and see if there's still hope. Okay, these are way bigger than I thought. I have two of these. My original idea was to do one big light above the island because I have two lights above my counter at the window. And I didn't want to have two there and two here. I thought that would look a little weird. But then I couldn't really find one that was big enough to be okay on its own. So I got two of these. But these are way larger than I thought. I was right though, that the light source itself indeed belonged to these lampshades, which I'm absolutely not using these. So as I said, this part that has to go around the part that you screw the light bulb in is too big, and this ring usually goes around it to keep the lampshade in place. Now, obviously, that ring would go straight through. However, if I could make a ring that has the inside hole the size of that thing and the outside hole wider than this, I could sandwich that in between, I think, and that might as well just solve the entire problem. And I think I can do that. Could it be that simple? This is the right size at least, so let's see how it goes. I'm optimistic. Yes, that totally works. Focus, there we go. You can see that that lampshade is a little bit lopsided. It's not hanging straight, which is a fault in the lampshade itself. So the bracket, this part, is bent, which I don't expect from a new lampshade. So I'm a little disappointed about that. But I have another one that I just had laying around. I have two of these in the windowsills over at the dining table at the other side of the living room, which is why I didn't want to also use it here. Besides, I'm not a huge fan of the straight shape. I actually like the cone or something interesting like this, and it's quite big. But I think I'm just gonna put it on and just try it out, see what it looks like. It is green, so it goes really well with the kitchen. That's nice. This is also why I wanted to make that little adapter piece, because whatever lampshade I'm using, I'm gonna run into this issue. So this was a nice solution. Okay, so to summarize, this lampshade is crooked and I can't fix it. The other two, I have decided, that's also why I didn't take them out of the plastic. I think they're a little bit too Cinderella-y, if that makes sense. They are shiny. It's like a silky wedding dress kind of vibes. It's a little bit too dollhouse. I'm sure that only makes sense to me. I don't like them. So, and also the answer to my very first question of today, yes, this could have all fit into one box. So that's what I will do. I will put them all back into one of the boxes and send them back. I am glad that I did that little DIY thingy so that I can put any lampshade up there, but I'm going to have to go online and look for one that just suits a little bit better. So I'm going to stuff these back into a box, and then I'm going to go into the kitchen because there is something very delicious that I want to make. am making a mushroom soup, which means I'm gonna have to prepare a lot of mushrooms. But did you know that the internet lies to you all the time? I realized that not a lot of people know this, but cooking mushrooms actually takes quite a lot of time. So when you look up a recipe online, you have this, the recipe card with all of the instructions, and very often it will also include the time that it takes to prepare the meal. There was quite a long period where this entire space, the blog space and mostly the recipe blog space, was pretty competitive. And one of the ways to get your blog post up in ranking or up in search was to make sure that the preparation time of your recipe was short, because people like very fast and easy recipes to follow. What would happen is people would flat out lie in their recipes and say, for example, saute your onions and your garlic and your mushrooms for about 2 minutes. Don't do that. Don't saute your mushrooms for 2 minutes. That is not enough. What you want to do with mushrooms is very, very different from what you want to do with onions. I put the mushrooms in a completely dry but very hot pan. They will very quickly start to steam and release liquid, and that is what you basically bake them in. And you just bake them as long as it needs to evaporate. That takes quite a lot of time. And in my case right now, because I am making a lot of mushrooms and I don't want to crowd the pan, I have to do it in batches, so this definitely takes a lot longer. But this is the best way to get these really nice brown, glossy mushrooms. Now, if you do it in one batch and you have one pan of mushrooms, as soon as all of the liquid has evaporated, you add a little bit of butter and maybe some aromatics like thyme is really nice with it. And then you cook that for just a little bit more, and that's it. That's all you have to do with your mushrooms. You can season them afterwards. Don't put the salt on in the beginning. Do that afterwards. That makes for the best mushrooms. The same, by the way, goes for onions. If you look at any recipe that includes caramelized onions, it very often will not mention how long it takes to caramelize your onion. Caramelize your onions for about 5 minutes, or maybe 10 minutes if they're very bold, but I have never been able to caramelize my onions in 10 minutes. Sometimes it takes up to an hour. It obviously depends on a lot of factors, what kind of pan you use, how high you've got your burner, what kind of onions you're using, but it's not gonna happen in 10 minutes. So yes, the internet lies to you. So I always just put my mushrooms on, and then I will cut up all of the other vegetables that I need for my dish. And in the meantime, I will just stir every now and then and just wait for them to be done. And this can take up to 15 to 20 minutes. So you definitely want to take your time. Also, if you're ever wondering why the light kind of flickers a little bit weirdly, that is just because the camera doesn't really agree with the kind of lamp that is in there. I saw it happen with the faux candles that I showed you earlier as well. Where's the remote? Oh, there. I need a little bit more light. In some angles, it will give a weird effect. We're just gonna have to ignore that. I'm using about 650 grams of mushrooms, which is part white mushrooms and then part chestnut mushrooms. If I would use these mushrooms in a dish that is not a soup, I would cut these up in thinner slices than what I just did here. But as I am planning on pureeing this soup in the end, it doesn't really matter to me that much, so I just cut them up quite roughly. While the mushrooms cook, I will cut up all of the other veggies, which in this case is a large onion, or in my case 2 smaller ones, 2 stalks of celery, and 2 cloves of garlic. I have also picked some thyme and parsley from the garden, which keeps surprising me. This thyme is a summer thyme, and it's still doing perfectly well. Now when the mushrooms are almost done, I will melt some butter in a large pan and saute the onions and celery for a couple of minutes, because yes, you can do that with onions and celery, just until they are soft. Then I will add the garlic and the thyme, which I will cook for only a couple of seconds, and then I add the mushrooms and the chicken stock. Now I only had 1 more jar of my own chicken stock, so I had to replace the rest with a stock cube, but that is fine. I also add a bay leaf, and then I let the whole thing simmer for about 20 minutes. You know what else they do that with, by the way? Baking bread. They will lie about the rising times, or they will not mention them at all and say that you have to do a bulk rise for an hour and then have to do another rise later on, but they won't mention that that might be 1 or maybe 2 hours before it's done. Love that. You cannot trust the internet, you guys. So if you don't like mushrooms but you've never tried this way before, try it, because they taste very different and they don't have that gummy texture that you sometimes get when they're not fully cooked. Try it out and let me know. After it has been simmering for about 20 minutes, I puree the soup to get it as smooth as I can using my immersion blender, and then I just have a taste. In my case, I added a little bit of salt and pepper, and then at the very end, I add a little bit of cream, heat it through a little bit, and then you're done. I'm sorry, you're gonna have to wait just a little bit. I feel like I didn't really do that many useful things today, but I hope you still enjoyed hanging out with me. We are going to eat that delicious soup because Stefan is getting very impatient with me. Is that your stomach growling? Not you at all? No? Even the dog is like, what? Anyway, we are having them with some toast of my homemade bread, you know, the very small ones. That's why they're tiny, tiny baby toasts. I think it's gonna be really good. I really hope to see you again tomorrow. Bye, guys.